about how I would think about what I wanted that world to look like. And it included gap analysis and all of those logic models and all those pieces. How do you try to design for the future? So that's the way I looked at it. I also recognized that as we really tried to do that forecasting, I heard someone recently, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to pull the name of his company immediately, but he's a futurist, and his name was Gary Golden. He did a presentation at the recent session on Project Compass, and the point that he made was that we do not do forecasting in order to be right. We do forecasting in order to not be caught unawares. And that it's about really knowing what's going on now and being aware of the trends so that you won't be surprised later. And if you're really lucky, you may actually have a chance to do some of the shaping as to what comes next. But the forecasting isn't so much about, am I going to guess right, ooh, and Mike was wrong, or maybe Mike was right and I was wrong. That doesn't matter. It's that we're going to be aware of what's going on around us. So, as we think about those desired outcomes and where we want to move, I've got to try to guess what are going to be the future needs in our communities. What services and products might people want? What difference would be made? And what impact would be caused? Good old outcome-based thinking. So now I have this dilemma of, okay, this is long-range planning. Well, I'm going back to the 38 years here, Gary. You know, it used to be we did it maybe 10 years, maybe 5 years, maybe 3 years. If we're lucky, our action plans will be for 12 to 18 months these days. IMLS just finished doing our strategic plan for the next round. And yes, indeed, it has to be a 5-year plan. However, our action plan is for 12 to 18 months. So I took a good hard look at that plan. Hey, I'm ready to do this. I need to do a quick look back. What am I doing in my day job that informs this process? And our new strategic plan, which is entitled Creating a Nation of Learners, has a vision. The vision is of a democratic society where communities and individuals thrive with broad public access to knowledge, cultural heritage, and lifelong learning. It expresses a mission for IMLS as providing leadership through research, policy development, grant making, and inspiring libraries and museums to advance innovation, lifelong learning, and cultural and civic engagement. These are not new concepts. That was the thing that struck me first. I'd be willing to bet that this same vision, this same mission, were embedded in the library, the first library language in the 1950s when the first federal aid to libraries started. There's a timelessness with regards to this. So then I went to our goals. We have 3 primary outward-facing goals. We have a couple others that are more integrated internally. I think they're timeless too. Supporting the development and engagement of the learner, promoting discovery of knowledge and access to cultural heritage through stewardship, and serving as community anchor institutions that strengthen the community by helping individuals help themselves and others. Again, I feel these things are timeless. Are we surrounded by change? Absolutely. Technology, our users, our constituent groups, the expectations that those groups have, the quantity of information we're asked to deal with. All of these things are changing dramatically in a way that we cannot even predict what it will look like, as far as I'm concerned, in 5 or 10 years, never mind Gary's 38. When I came to IMLS, we were looking at the initiation of a program that I know a number of people in the room have benefited from, the Laura Bush 21st Century Librarian Program. And we were looking at how the definition of the profession itself had changed, in addition to the technologies, the information, the users, and all those other things. What were the parameters of the occupation itself, or the multiple occupations? And Bob Martin, our then director, had a great talk about the blurring of the boundaries and looking at how there was this just kind of bleeding over from one to the other, where librarians were now curating their online materials and museum people were finding that they were having to do cataloging around exhibits online, that they were finding they were needing each other's skill sets. This was all very closely wrapped in with our 21st century learner work, which was looking at what the learner of the future needs, the librarian of the 21st century, the learner of the 21st century. So we ended up settling on 21st century skills as our next initiative. And this was looking at not today's graduates, but at today's kindergartners. And what skills are today's kindergartners going to need in order to succeed in the workplace? And this is where the first time I encountered our set of 4 C's that bubbled to the top again yesterday. Creativity, critical thinking, curiosity, communication, the ability to collaborate. These, again, are timeless skills. So as we look at our libraries in particular, but our archives, our museums, our cultural heritage entities in general, and how they do support that independent learner, how do we prepare the professionals who are going to work in those institutions to support that type of learner? For me, it's always about the people. Just as when I look at our institutions, the most important asset, as far as I'm concerned, is always the staff. And when I'm looking at the staff and what drives them, the most important element is the person on the other side of the walls or the screen or the wireless air out there who is looking for the services. So what do we need to look for? My personal prediction of the future, the precise issues, the exact partners, the particular constituent groups, and all those things may change. But I do believe that the mission, the purpose, and the heart of the craft of connecting people to each other and ideas will endure. And that the specific skill sets and the vehicles and the tools will evolve in ways that we can't imagine. But the purpose and the goals will continue, and they'll be played out in different ways. So here I am as a librarian, wanting to help prepare my user group, whether it's the broad community or the individuals or the youth of today, for what comes tomorrow. Now I'm going to look at staff members who come in. What do I want those staff members who come into my library to have as great skill sets? I want them to be adept at strategic thinking. I want them to have a facility with evidence-based planning and evaluation. The world around them may change. I think that is a critical core skill set. I want them to have the ability and skills necessary to engage in trends analysis, to see what's going on around them, to be agile, to be adept, to be ready to be entrepreneurs. The third thing is probably a pedagogy, the ability to effectively teach, train, and empower the learner of tomorrow. What's that learner of tomorrow look like? That learner is senior citizens, that learner is very young children, that learner may speak lots of languages, that learner may deal with, as we had a conversation yesterday, with the written word or not. So how do we deal with the ability to teach effectively vast varieties of learners? That's something that the librarian for tomorrow has to learn, because that is a big piece of what I believe they will always do. And then I'm going to be coming back to Mike and his customization. And customization and customer service are like this for me. And it is the ability and the skill to respond to the needs of each unique customer. The customer service responsiveness is absolutely critical. Along with that goes those other C's, that curiosity, the creativity, the communication, and as we pointed out yesterday, and I'm looking at Charles, it may have been Charles, it may have been somebody else in the room, the ability to truly listen. How we teach these communicators and provide them with a core that hopefully keeps them engaged in maybe multiple nodes on that continuum of what this profession is becoming. We have everything from papyrus to data chips. We have everything from information specialists who need to know very, very in depth to information generalists who need to play a role of a concierge who just points the customer to the right place to go and the next stop. We know that today's young people are going through multiple careers.